And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who understands traffic after a heavy meal. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And I'm on the mainland now with Colonel Jeff here at stately Miller Manor, and with the doggies here in the studio. And it was just gorgeous today. It really, really was, and it's worth saying that. And it, you know what? As you know, and I'll never stop saying, that music makes me feel wonderful, and Colonel Jeff too. And of course, that's the Andre Previn Orchestra and the Abby Stein Dancers, featuring boy tenor Brad Simpson asking the musical question, if you don't happen to have any clothes that are tie-dyed, can you still get into a Grateful Dead concert? Yes, but I'll bet you $1 they're tie-dyed when you leave. Now, good question, Brad, as always, and, well, I'm a deadhead. I must have mentioned that at some point here on the show, but I sure do like the Grateful Dead, and I always have and I always will. And more than like them, I mean, that's my band. In fact, one of my sons got me on his last trip home, got me for my birthday, got me, a collection of Grateful Dead CDs. There are 6 of them. And boy, I like them a lot. And I like him a lot. I was so touched. Well, I love him a lot. But I said, well, good for you, because my kids know. Well, that's the way it is. I'm a deadhead. And see, the thing is, in my college years and a couple of years after that, I went to a bunch of Dead concerts, and I never owned anything tie-dyed. That's why it was a good question, Brad. I mean, I wouldn't know how to make them, and to be honest, I don't know how I'd feel wearing them anyway. We would just all wear jeans and flannel shirts and topsiders, which, come to think of it, is what we wore every day anyway. But there was nothing in the world, to me, wow, like a Grateful Dead show, a Grateful Dead concert, and we had a great time there. And no, we didn't take any pills, we didn't do any this or that. We were all deadheads, and we loved, just the thought, Jerry Garcia, God bless you. You know what? I wish you were still here, but wow, Bob Weir, Phil Lesh, and Bill Kreutzmann, and Mickey Hart. Whew. A great band. And if you know that, then we're in the same family. If you don't know that, you should. So anyway, good question, Brad. If you don't happen to have any clothes that are tie-dyed, can you still get into a Grateful Dead concert? Yes, and nobody beat us up for not having them. I don't think so, anyway. Well, you know what? I'll have to think about that, and I'll get back to you. And there are a couple of people who were important to mention in that introduction. Andre Previn and Abby Stein, they both passed on very recently. And Andre Previn, well, God bless him. What a great artist. What a talent. What a genius. And we all use that word too much, I think, but real charming. And in every way. And with all of his music. So good for you, Andre. God bless you, and good luck wherever you're going there. I think God might just give you your own galaxy, and either start things there or figure out how to run it. And Abby Stein, boy oh boy, she was a friend of mine and a great comedian, and she just passed away. Abby was a real talent and a delight, and she was funny and tough as nails. She could look right at you or anyone and wasn't afraid of anything. And I liked her a lot. We all liked her a lot in that little comedy family. And we all met and started out at the comic strip in New York. And one year, on New Year's Day, we went to see Abby in the hospital. 3 friends of mine and I had a thing we always used to do on New Year's Day. I might have mentioned this at one point anyway. We called it the funniest men in the world. And we were kidding, by the way. We didn't mean that, but that was our little group. And on New Year's Day, no matter where you were working the night before, and a couple of years, boy, I had to fly in from Atlanta or Dallas or Chicago or something, but we got back. I flew in either after the New Year's shows the night before or first thing in the morning, really early, like 5, 6 o'clock flight in the morning, just to get back to New York, because that's where it was and that's where we were. And that was, in fact, Jerry Seinfeld, Paul Reiser, Mark Schiff, and me, and Mike Caine. God bless him. He's a good friend of ours, and he passed away too. And we had a great group, and Abby Stein was sick one year, and she had, I think it was meningitis, and she was in the hospital, and she was in the bed, and she was all tied up to everything, and we decided to go visit her and say hello and, just laugh together and dance around her bed. And by the way, it wasn't because we were loaded. It wasn't because we were drunk, okay? And if it was, who cares? So what? And, but we went there, we got there, I guess about 11:30 in the morning. And we stayed for a while. I don't know how long, about an hour, I guess. And she was smiling and she was happy we were there. And so were we. And I'll never forget, I think that's right on the way out of the hospital. We decided a wheelchair race was the best way to leave. And turns out it wasn't. And they didn't appreciate that there. But we were knuckleheads and we were just giggling anyway. So we did. And it was great to see Abby. At any rate, she passed away about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. And I'm sorry, Abby. I'm sorry you got sick. And I'm sorry it beat you. She had a couple of kids and she married someone she loved. And, boy, she was doing all sorts of things. But it's not only worth mentioning her name, it's more than worth it. Good luck to Andre and good luck to you, Abby. And God bless you both. And by Amazon. That's right, Amazon. Still my favorite company in the world. And not just because they pay us. Well, again, that's another, maybe it is. But they're a good company. And by the way, you can get anything from them in the world. Amazon has everything. And you can get everything from them, except, of course, an actual Amazon. And if you could do that, please let us know fast. Because Colonel Jeff and I want to come there. If the doorbell rings one day, you boom, boom, and you see, well, there's a beautiful, strong, tough Amazon there. You know what? Let us know. We'd like to know. And we'd like to check her out and be careful so that she doesn't hurt you. We'd rather she hurts us first. That's right. Not for long. Okay, a couple of weeks, but I mean, we just want to know. In any case, that's a great company, Amazon. And if you want to go there and buy all sorts of things, you know what? You could get there on your iPhone, on your laptop, or whatever it is. Don't do that. We'll take you there. Go to our website, LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the mountain? Tom Mix. Oh, brother, I've got to get new socks. We'll get you there. We have a banner that says Amazon. Click that, and they'll go take a nap. Get in your big lazy boy chair and just rock it back. You can have a meal or put a magazine over your head, but you won't need it. And they're not a sponsor, by the way. I just love saying, boy, those chairs are pretty good. And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. Yeah. And I do love this. I've said it before, but it's true. You know what it's like? Great music by Schubert or Schumann or any of the composers that, frankly, just sit on a shelf. Oh, sure, there are classical musicians who play them a lot, but not a ton. And it's great to keep them alive. And it's great to do that with art. And it's great to do that with jokes, with good jokes. And you know what? If you like this one, pass it on. Tell someone you care about, someone you love, your family, your friends, people at work, whatever it is. Keep jokes alive. In fact, that's a good motto for something. And at any rate, Colonel Jeff and I like this one very much. As a fella who comes home after work to his nice suburban house, and he says to the wife, "Hi, honey," and they have that dinner together. And she says, "Listen, I'm not going to have dinner tonight with you because I just want you to know I took a job, a little part-time job, just to, get a little pin money and a couple of bucks here and there. And so I'm going out there now." And he says, "Okay, good, great." And she does. She hops out the door, and there's a cab waiting for her. She called the cab, and she gets in and takes off and goes, all right. And in the next couple of nights, though, and she's going out every night to do her job, and he starts to think, and he gets a little suspicious. Gee, I don't know. Something Epis doesn't seem right about this, that she hasn't given me any information, really. And then he thinks, I bet she's going to see a guy. I bet she's cheating on me. I bet she got a boyfriend. And he said, well, you know what? That's got to come to an end. And that next night when he gets home, she takes off in her cab and heads out. And he gets in a cab, too, that he called. And he gets in the cab and says, "Follow that cab." And the cabbie does. And they go. It's only a few miles away. And they get to a place that it turns out is a brothel. And it looks like a brothel, too. It's kind of on its own out there in the woodlands outside the suburbs. And the guy said, What is this? What in the world? And her cab pulls up and sits there for a couple of minutes while, she's getting dressed. And then she gets out of the cab and she is tarted up and made up. And she's wearing, fancy, sexy clothes. And she goes in and he thinks, no, this can't be. I don't know what's going on in there, but, this is, there are prostitutes in there. He can't even think about it. And he says to the cabbie, "Hey, want to make $100? The cabbie says, "Sure." And he says, "Go in there and get my wife out of there and drag her out. And that gets you $100. The cabbie says, "Sure." So he puts it in park and he does that. He gets out of his side and goes trotting into the brothel. And just a minute or two later, out he comes, and he's dragging the woman, and he drags her back to the car and opens the door for her. And the guy in the car says, "Hey, wait a minute. That's not my wife." "I know. It's mine. I'm going back inside for yours right now." That's pretty good. We got a kick out of that. And again, that's what is that wonderful thing about jokes. One of the kinds of jokes where, it lives in silly world a little, which is a fine place to be. That how many times, I don't know, are there brothels in anyone's neighborhoods? I guess, I don't know. But it's just funny. His wife says, "I'm going to make a couple of bucks. Okay, bye." Anyway, I hope you like that one too. And as I said, pass it along. Keep jokes alive. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. love that string quartet. And I love the Poetry Corner. I love bringing that into our lives here, and the doggies too, and giving it to you. The same thing. Keep poetry alive. This is written by the great William Blake, who was an English poet, lived from 1757 to 1827. Well, he was many things. He was a poet, painter, and a printmaker, which he did artwork and maps, but really a poet. And he was your typical unrecognized person in his lifetime, but he is now considered one of the most important artists and voices in the Romantic age. And this is a lovely poem called Spring by William Blake. Sound the flute, now it's mute. Birds delight day and night. Nightingale in the dale, lark in sky, merrily, 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 to welcome in the year. Little boy full of joy, little girl sweet and small, cock does crow, so do you. Merry voice, infant noise, merrily, merrily, to welcome in the year. Little lamb, here I am, come and lick my white neck. Let me pull your soft wool, let me kiss your soft face, merrily, merrily, to welcome in the year. Isn't that nice? That's really a love, like a lot of great poets, William Blake found there a nice series of images for, well, spring. I hope you like it. The same thing. Pass it along. Keep poetry alive. And that brings me to my third favorite part of the show, Magic Movie Moment. This is a terrific movie, and both Colonel Jeff and I ran into it, saw it again on TV. Funny, I went just by saying that, it sounded like someone from 100 years ago, on the television. And but it's a great movie from 1969, Easy Rider, written by Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, Terry Southern. Directed by Dennis Hopper, starring Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, Jack Nicholson, Karen Black. It's a great cast. And a terrific movie. And I remember even seeing it as a kid. And I loved it, even though I didn't understand most of anything it was doing or they were doing or saying. But it had a feeling to it. Well, those guys were all pretty good at finding thoughts and feelings. And boy, oh boy, they go across the country on their choppers, on their big motorcycles, and, well, the Magic Movie Moment scene is a good part of that movie, and it indicates something about their trip. It's the coffee shop scene, where, well, they're going across the country and they stop in, they walk into a small town, into the coffee shop, into their little diner there. And folks, it's the first time, by the way, I just want to tell you that that town and that became the sets was on location in Louisiana, because on that trip, coincidentally, they're going to New Orleans or Nolans. And they go into this diner, though, and it's the first time in the movie, and Colonel Jeff agrees and remembers this, and maybe you too, remember that it's the first time we had a look at how these people are seen by the local folks they meet, and how Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper look to them. Because remember, this was a time, well, this was 1969, and the year or two before it took to film. And when you looked like that, today it's all different. You can look as crazy as you want and go into the fanciest jewelry store in Beverly Hills, and they'll say, well, hello, fellas, have a seat. And yet in those days, you were seen as, well, dangerous, and not just as hippies, but as, well, as communists, as thieves, as drug dealers, as who knows what. And so it's the first time we see also, not just the diner was local, but they got, for their cast there, they got some fellas who are local from that area. And they look at it, and it makes you jar just a little bit. And there were 5 or so local girls who were playing teenage girls who were still in high school. And, well, they were just cast just right. And they were pretty and giggling and reacting to them, to Peter and Dennis, like, well, who are they and what do they want? And but enjoying it, in fact, loving it. But the fellas there, boy, they were not pleased that these two were coming into their diner in their town and in a way forcing themselves there. And, by the way, Dennis Hopper, as the director, told them, he just made this up, that he told them before they were shooting there that the 2 characters, Wyatt and Billy, Peter and Dennis, had raped 2 local girls the night before, just to make them even madder. He said, now play, that's how you feel. That's how you should feel about them. And they did, and just the way they looked, folks, I remember, and I'll bet you remember too. And one of the older fellows there sitting at the table just said, after one of the pretty young girls says, who are they? And one of the local fellows says something like, he was an older man, and he said, they look like the offspring of a gorilla lovin'. And it's not that that's so funny. It just shows you, though, they don't like this. And that's the way our country was. These fellas like that, couldn't just drive up ride up in their choppers and say, hi, everybody. And it shows them later. They're looking for a place to sleep. And they ride up to a motel. They don't even turn the choppers off, which, by the way, even as a kid, made me just kind of annoyed. How do you not turn the choppers off, walk in, take your helmets off, or just walk in, take your sunglasses off, or just walk in and say to the man behind the counter, evening, sir, do you have a room for us? No, they don't. They just shout it from the choppers that are still running, roaring, just, and a guy comes out, and Peter Fonda yells, got any rooms for us? And the guy just doesn't even answer, just kind of waves his hand, go on, get out of here, and walks back inside and closes the screen door. That's the way that coffee shop scene was to me. This is a terrific movie. It's meaningful on a lot of levels, and it starts in one place, and it turns out they begin to realize what we begin to realize. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what's going to happen when they get there, and they don't even know what they want anymore. It's a good movie, folks. See it again if you haven't seen it in a long time. If you've never seen it, see it. It's worth seeing it. And remember, well, there's nothing like a good movie with a magic movie moment. And it reminded me, because I wanted to tell you tonight about something that happened today. A series of somethings. And as I was going through it, I thought, this is worth telling people about on the Larry Miller Show. I did a show in Australia. That is, it's a very popular show. I think it's their #1 show. And it's a variety show, and it's hosted by Richard and Sonia, who are a terrific couple of folks, and they do a good job. And it's on live in Australia, and it bounces off satellite. And they were very nice and asked if I wanted to come on, and I said sure. And my publicist and friend Michael Hansen came with me. I met him there. Boy, you never know about Los Angeles anyway. Once you drive there, that it was an hour and 15 minutes for him from Santa Monica, where he lives, just to get to And this wasn't driving to the moon, just to get to on regular roads in the city, just to get to where this building is. Now, that's worth mentioning. He's a big boy, and he's a great pro. But we look at each other, and he just said, well, that was some ride, boy. Well, yeah, it is. And it's an hour and 15 minutes when you don't expect it to be. And I came from here, stately Miller Manor, and it didn't take me that long. It took me about a half hour. But here's the thing. I parked my car in the building there, and, well, this is great. I'm going to do a show from Australia, and I always try to be on time. I'm never on time, by the way. It dawned on me that I've been 17 minutes late for 12 years. But in any case, I was on time for this, and I parked there, and I got into the lobby where there are two elevators, one on one side and one on the other. And this is a really new, well, fancy building. And I looked at the elevators and the panels there to get the elevators. And normally, you know, and I know, and Colonel Jeff knows, there's a button. You push the button to get the elevator. So you just push a button. I'm standing next to an older man with a cane, and he and I both have no idea what to do. There's a panel on each side near the elevator with numbers on them, just numbers, 1 to 9, and big numbers in 3 rows of 3. And I don't know what to do. I don't think I'm that stupid. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he shrugged, and I shrugged, and I said, wait a minute, hang on a second here. We tried doing something like that, and then I said, wait a minute, I'll get us some help here. And I walked, it's about 50 feet more back to the lobby near the front doors, and there are 2 fellows behind the counter, and they work there. They're doormen and signing folks in, I guess, and they have those, uniforms on. And I walked up and said, can one of you help us? I honestly can't figure out the elevator. I don't know what to push, and that fellow there and I need you to help us. And one of the fellows smiled and kind of chuckled at me and said, shouldn't you know? And I smiled back, and he mentioned, he was talking about an episode I did of Seinfeld where I played a doorman, and I had kind of the outfit they had. And that was a lot of fun, that episode. But he came over and he said, okay, let me show you what's going on. Now, with those buttons, you see, you have to push the button for the floor you're going to. Now, I could have done that. I just didn't know what to do. And so we were going to the 15th floor, both the older fella and I, and he pushed that, and he said something nice. He held the door open for us as we walked in, and he said something. I said something. All right, we'll see you. Thanks, pal. And then we started going up, and I remember saying, I just turned to the older man, and I just said, what is it with us today? What are we looking for? Why does that have to be so hard? I mean, you and I both just couldn't do it. Could we? And we're not idiots, and I don't want to be an idiot, but what are the builders of buildings doing or trying to do that we don't need anyway and can't do once they do it? And I said, I'm not saying we should go back to, well, guys in uniforms with white gloves on in the elevator. Well, the elevator man, where he got the handle there and it's on a big circular unit, and he just starts it up. He closes that gate with his other hand. Remember that? And then starts it up. And they would tell you whatever floor you were going to. 3rd floor. All right, well, this is men's underwear and women's socks and things. And I don't know what women's socks are, by the way, but they had them on the 3rd floor. But he was in charge of you, and that felt good. I still remember that from being a kid. Well, you're 3, 4, 5 years old, and when he got to the later 50s, that they still had elevator men in buildings like that. Well, I like that. All right, we don't need that. Fine, that's fine. All right, so it went to buttons then. Okay, fine with me. You push the button outside the elevator, as we were just saying. And you get in, the door's open, you get in, door's closed, you push a button. Floor 7, floor 8, floor 15, whatever it is. Now, that seems doable, doesn't it? And this is not being cranky, by the way, but what have we done? What have we thrown out that we still would rather have? I remember, by the way, I was telling Colonel Jeff as we were preparing for the show, I remember going into an elevator. I was 15 years old, and this is on Long Island in New York, and I took a bus to Hempstead and was looking. I was going to apply for this job or was going to have an interview. I can't remember what it was for. And I got in the elevator in the lobby, and this is work time. It was about 10:30 in the morning, and the elevator was also filled with 6 or 7 fellas in suits with briefcases and the kind of thing you might expect in a big building like that. And I got in and the doors closed, and I said to myself, you know what, this is a good example of a good elevator. This is for a big new building like this, a fancy operation, and the guys like this are in it with the suits and the briefcases, and plus it's good. This is a good one. It's smooth as silk and can't feel a thing. It's just going, and that's great. And it doesn't jerk you along. It feels wonderful. And folks, about 30 seconds went by, and then I was the only one who thought this apparently. And I suddenly just looked at the elevator around, and I turned around to look at these other fellas and said, "Did anyone push a button?" And they all looked a little surprised and shocked and looked at each other and shrugged. And no, I didn't push it. No one had pushed a button. That wasn't a smooth elevator. It was a little metal room with the doors closed that wasn't moving. And they were just looking at the front the way people do, or glancing up at the numbers, which weren't moving. And I was the only one who said, well, you know what? Why don't we do that? Why don't we push buttons? And I was just 15, and I reached over and pushed my button. Then a couple of the other fellows, again, looked at each other and said, yeah, okay, let's. And they pushed their buttons. Now, that's another moment of elevatorness that you want to say, who's stupid here? Is everyone stupid? But on this building, but in this elevator today, the older fella and I got to the 15th floor. And we smiled our goodbyes. He said, have a good appointment. I said, you too. And I got into the place there, and there was a woman who came out to meet me, and one of the producers, and she was very nice. And she said, well, I'm glad you could make it. Thank you for coming here. And she said, any problems? I said, no. I said, does anyone ever complain about the elevator here? And she said, everyone, I know. We all know. It's just, if you don't know how to use it, it's impossible to figure out. And she said, are you okay? I said, no, listen, I'm fine. I'm a big boy, but it's just, whew, I would rather dive out the window here on the 15th floor than have to take that elevator down again. And she smiled and took me into the green room. And there was Sam Rubin, by the way, who has his own show on Fox. And I've worked on his show several times, and we like each other. And I say, what do you know? And he was there. He does that show too. This goes on, remember, live in Australia. And he does a lot of news reporting and entertainment reporting. And he was there to also talk about this thing today of people bribing or paying colleges and universities to take their kids in. And that was one of those things. And my publicist, my friend Michael Hansen, came and met me there. And we were both looking at the TV in the green room and saying, "What? I don't even know what's wrong here. I don't even know what crime was committed." And he said, the same here. We're going to all spend, you and I are going to spend the next 20 to 40 hours hearing, well, this just in on the big university thing. And if we have any brains, you and I will both turn the TV off, by the way. That's, I'm not ranting here. I'm just saying, come on. If you watch another segment on the We spoke to the people at the college, and they said they didn't know. Oh, I just can't. And Sam had a great spot there. That's 5 or 6 minutes, and he's on there 3 times a week. And then he came back in the green room. We just chatted. It was very nice. He said, come on the show. And he said to my friend Michael, call me and let's get Larry back on the show. Sure, that'd be great. And then the producer came in, and he took me in to the place where you sit down and you put, the little thing in your ear. And I was dressed up, by the way. I had a sport jacket, shirt, tie, and slacks, and topsiders, which for me is really dressed up. I don't know about you. And plus I had makeup on. Not a ton of makeup, but they have all sorts of stuff there in these places. And sure, all right. Plus, I'm in show business. Why the heck not? And I was sitting there, and I did my spot, and they were very nice to me. And I spoke to Richard and Sheila in Australia. And because these technologies are just amazing, folks. You know that. You sit there, and there's a microphone in front of you, and you're sitting in a chair, and it's shot from the waist up. And they want to hear a couple of stories about this. See, it's the 20th anniversary of a movie I was in called 10 Things I Hate About You. And I should know that title better. I have a strict rule. If you're in the thing, you should know the title. And it's a terrific movie. I think it's very, very good. And it's based on William Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. And in fact, they kept the names because Julia Stiles was a great actress, as you know, and played Katerina. And, of course, it was a big event for them and for that show because Heath Ledger, who's passed on, was a great guy and a great actor and a great talent. And they love him in Australia. They really always revered him, and then they were proud of him, and they should be. So they wanted to know about him and what it was like to work together. And I finished my segment, and I was very happy with it, and they were very happy with it. And the producer took the little thing out of my ear, and I went back into the green room, and Michael was happy, and that matters to me. It counts a lot, and counts to him. And then it's time to leave, and I said to him, feel like getting a bite? And he said, well, sure. Do you feel like getting a bite? And then he said to me, and he was right. He said, if we take our cars out of the parking garage here in the building, we'll never find another spot outside. And that sounds silly to you maybe, but he was right. I mean, he was exactly right. I looked at him in the green room and just said, boy, you nailed it there. You know what? And we just shook hands and both said, goodbye, because that was not going to be, we weren't going to sit down for a dinner anywhere. I don't mean an hour-long dinner, but just to get a bite. And plus the fact I was coming back here to Stately Miller Manor to do the show and to meet Colonel Jeff. And I did that, went back down to the garage, Michael and I together, and he got his car and I got mine, and there we go. And he headed off, and he went that way, and I went the other way, and I didn't know where I'm going, and I was going back to, you're in L.A. Well, I know my way around at this point, for crying out loud. And I passed Cahuenga, and I should have taken that. But there's sometimes you do things that are so dumb. I said, well, wait a minute, I'll just go back to Highland and take that north and just go up and over the hills there. But this is rush hour, folks. This is now 4:15, and it's, as the old line goes, it's a parking lot. In fact, it was worse than that. It was an oil painting. So but there I am. All right. Once again, I'm a big boy. I can do this. But I also thought, well, boy, oh boy, I'm getting hungry, and I'm going to meet the colonel at this place, and he's going to come to the manor here, and we're going to do the show. So I couldn't stop anywhere, but I wanted, well, you get hungry. Now it's 4:15, 4:20. Well, come on. I thought, this is a good time to stop over. And before we got to the Hollywood Bowl, we're on Highland now. I am, that is. And I saw a little mini mall with a Subway and a Starbucks and a Pizza Bella place and a sushi place that had closed, which is not a good sign, by the way, but that's all right. If you're looking for an omen. But I just, the last second I put my blinker on, pulled, and I thought this is a good time and a good place. And I went into the Subway there, and it's a really nice place. Subways, I don't know if you know this, but they keep them very well. They're very well made, very well designed. And this stuff was all new, and it wasn't chipped in furniture. And it was a good place to sit. I was the only one in there, and I ordered my stuff, and I ordered a big sandwich, a foot-long thing. And I know it's one of those places also where you talk yourself into, well, it's actually healthy, because you get some turkey and let's see, I got cucumbers, tomatoes, olives, pickles. It may sound horrible to you, but I like that stuff, and some oil on it. And at any rate, I sat down and started to eat, and that's when I began to realize, because I said, well, gee, actually, before I eat, I want to just go to the washroom and we'll wash up and, well, use it. And I realized this is one of those places because someone else walked in, and the guy asked for a restroom, and the guy said, and he's a young fella behind the counter, he just said, no, we don't. We don't have a restroom for people, for the public. And she said, okay, and walked out. And I thought, oh, boy, all right. Well, I was pretty hungry. I polished off that sandwich, and I don't mean in a rush, but it felt good. It felt right. And I got a soda. And I got a Coke, big, tall, cold Coke with plenty of ice. I know it's not good for you. Well, this one tasted pretty good for me. And I did that, finished my things off, and walked outside. Now I'm ready to go home, to go here to Miller Manor. And it was, by now it's about, well, it's about 5. And that's, plenty of time. But I realized, oh, wait a minute. I had to pee, all right? I'll just say it. And I thought, well, this'll, all right. And I looked across to my left and right in this little mini mall, and there was that place, Pizza Bella, and I thought, that looks like a nice place. Let me just kind of walk in, and I did a very quick step walk and went in there. And it's also very nice place. If a pizzeria, and same thing, nice furniture, good stuff. And I walked up to the guy, and he was very nice, and I said, can I get a slice? I don't like to ask people for the use of their place if I don't get something. Now, I wasn't hungry. I'd just eaten at Subway. But I said, just a slice. Do you have one slice? Yes, we do. I said, oh, great. And he gave me the check. And I said, and can I use your restroom, please, just before I eat? He said, no, we don't have a restroom for everyone and for the customers. And, oh, okay. I was beginning to realize that whole little area there wasn't big on restrooms for the public. And I took the check he gave me through a doorway into a big market, because that's where I had to pay for the pizza. And I went up, and there was an older man there in his 70s or 80s, an older Chinese man. And I walked up to him, and he gave me the check. And he smiled, and as I was paying for it, I said, can you tell me, please, can I use your restroom? Because I thought I'd try him. Because these places have restrooms. You know that. I know that. I like these places. I like the folks who work there. But they have to pee too, sometime in their 10-hour shift. And he said, no, probably, and it's not proper, he said, not proper place to pee? It's not a proper place? Do you have a bucket? Is that proper enough? And I said that, and he didn't, either he didn't understand, or he just thought, why do I have to listen to bald men trying to be funny? And he said, no public. All right. And I went back into the pizza place. I paid for the slice and went back in there. No, I've just got to get the slice. I don't feel like I'm more, you don't want to look stupid and just throw it out. And so I sat down with the slice at one of the tables, and it was nice and hot, not too hot. And I figured I have to at least take a bite of the slice before throwing it out. And I did. I took a bite, or 2 bites, and I said, all right, thank you, bye, 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 bye. And I walked out and just thought, this is a little crazy now. And I just tried the Starbucks, which was a couple of doors down. I figured, don't they always have, washrooms? And I walked in there and stuck my head in, and no, they don't. No, they don't. This whole place, this whole complex didn't want restrooms for the public. All right. Now I realized I got to get home because I've got to get home because I know we have bathrooms there. And as I walked out the door, there was a fella coming up just 5 or 6 feet away, and he walked up, and he was he's a big guy, about 6'2", and looked big, sort of like muscular big. And he said to me, and I just noticed though that as he came up, that he had that very, very red face of someone who sits in the sun a lot. And I don't mean trying to get tan. I mean, he sits on the sidewalk a lot and gets really red, like lobster red. And as he came up, he looked at me and had a big smile. He had a big smile he put on, and he just, oh! And he so happily, and he just shouted, "White man! White man!" And he held his fist out for me to bump it, to do a fist handshake. I don't know. First of all, I think you kind of have to do that. And this is not someone you want to make mad. And I did, all right. So you kind of tap the fist, and he goes, ah. And then he shouted out to a friend of his who was sitting on the sidewalk in front of the Subway I had just eaten at. And he just said, black man, white man. And I said, all right. And I realized it's time to get out of here. I don't dislike this guy, but so far, whatever this guy is, there was nothing worse going than I realized this place gets people like this all the time. This whole mall, that's why they don't have bathrooms for all the folks to use. Even someone in topsiders and a tie and shirt and sport jacket who really just needs to pee. And I gotten back in my car, and I thought as I got in, all right, I pulled backwards out, and the guy, by the way, who was sitting just about 20 feet from me, this same fellow with his friend in front of the Subway, just shouted to me, one word, he just screamed, "Trump!" with a big smile. And I couldn't help it. I just smiled back. And he shouted again, "Trump!" Just that one word, Trump. And I didn't know. I told Colonel Jeff, and we both realized, I didn't know whether he was celebrating Trump or just thinking because I'm a white man that I would like him now. I don't know, and I didn't care, and I just kind of did a small wave and pulled back, got it back on the Highland, which, folks, I'm telling you, was the same parking lot, only worse. And I got on, and I thought, whoa, this is crazy. I got to, all right, normally in the middle of the night, that would be a 17-minute or 20-minute drive back to Stately Miller Manor. It was going to take much longer than this, though. And now, by the way, it's 5:10. And it's, I got to, call Jeff and just see he left me a message, and that was great. Hey, I'm on my way. And I messaged him back just saying, because we weren't moving, by the way. I never used the phone in the car, but we were parked, in effect. And I just, said, hey, it's traffic here. And he said, me too. I said, I'll see you at the house, and fine. And I figured, between 5:10 and I told him I could be there before 6. And that's what I did. I started going, and this is crawling along in traffic. And folks, I'm telling you, I realized, I don't know if I can last here. I don't no. And I mean, I really wanted, well, a few trees off the baseball field. I mean, just someplace to run quickly into, to pee, and but I couldn't, and I'm in the car, and I'm telling you that it took so long, and I thought all along the way, okay, this is nuts, but this is the way it is, and I'm a big boy. I'm not a baby. I know what. I said, as soon as I get home, I know where to go because we have bathrooms. And I kept going. And, folks, the last 2 miles was where I had to go so badly that's where you start sort of shouting in the car to yourself and singing songs. I remember one was, I love a parade. I don't know why I sang that or had to sing that. Sing something, just do something with your voice. Go, oh, 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 and the windows are closed, but there's what you look like someone who's just escaped from an asylum, to anyone who's driving right next to you. And I'm telling you, I got back to the house just fine. I made it, and I really didn't think I would. And I got back in the driveway, and Colonel Jeff wasn't there yet. And I opened the door, and I got back in the house, and I knew my wife, so the doggies came up to say hi, and my wife was in her office, and so the bathroom was just now 4 feet away, just to turn right and get in there. But just to be polite, I just stepped into the office area and shouted out, hi, it's me, and she said, oh, hi, how'd it go? And it wasn't a good time for conversation, but I know I just said, fine, great. Excuse me, I just have to go to the bathroom. And now, just that, 12 or 15 seconds more, I started kind of jogging like Frankenstein and just, oh, and got in there and closed the door and unbuckled everything, and I realized, no. And I got everything down and, began. I made it. And I stood there with my hand against the wall, just breathing heavily when it was all done. And there you are. You're a human being, and that's holy mackerel. And I even said a little prayer of, thank you, God, and for getting me back here. And you know everything anyway, so I guess you know what I was doing. And folks, that was when I went upstairs kind of slow. I mean, really, that was an exhausting, frightening journey. And I went upstairs into my wife's and my bedroom there, and we have a bathroom in there. And I took off the sport coat and the tie and the shirt and then just started turning the sink on to wash up. Washed my hands 3 times just to get all the fist bump off it. When I shook hands with the red-faced man. Remember, called me white man and then just shouted, Trump! And at any rate, I did that. I cleaned off. Then I washed my face. Then I sort of 2 times and put it on the head 2 times. Everything just, and that was when Colonel Jeff called me. I had my phone there on the counter, and I dried off quickly with my hands and just pushed the little on. And I said, hi, what's going on? And he said, he's on his way. He was stuck in horrifying traffic, too. I said, that's great. And then he said, he's there. I said, oh, you're there? You're right here? And I said, oh, okay, I'll be right down. And my wife said, oh, I'll get him. I'll let him in. And I said, okay. And I wiped my hands and face and tossed on a sharp, short-sleeved shirt And that's how I'm talking to you now. But I am here to tell you, folks, that on this story, I love stories that have great meals in them. I love, and I've told a few recently, and I love when we're happy because of them. And why shouldn't we be? But on this occasion, I was in a mini mall with no bathrooms, and I made it back, but just by the skin of my teeth. And I hope that phrase applies. I don't know why I said it. But folks, do yourself a favor, and you get home safely too, and you go to the bathroom in your house too, and don't look for when there's nothing around that can help you. Don't spend time looking for it. And if you have to bump fists with a guy who sits in the sun a lot on the sidewalk, just do it and wash up when you get home. I know that, and so do you. And we know the same things. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. So remember, folks, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to and someone there who cares about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. Remember that. And go wash your hands. We'll see you here next time.